What's good in the hood? TJ Dillashaw, he's making the rounds this week. He was talking about Khamzat Chimaev and his weight cut journey leading up to UFC 328. And don't get me wrong, TJ Dillashaw, he's been there, he's done it. He has a ton of experience on weight cutting and the struggles that it can have on fighters. But I think he's spreading a wrong narrative, and he's spreading a wrong narrative at the wrong time, at the wrong place. And here's why. This is a little overview. He was on various different podcasts, this and that, making his, like I said, his rounds, talking about it because they have some history. He was involved in the camp to a degree. They're both part of the Jackson podcast, whatever that means. But yeah, he was saying that he was picking up green bile. He was claiming he shouldn't have made it to the fight week, this and that. Then he was trying to tout him up even more with his performance, being like, I was amazed at how he could perform so well, how his cardio could hold up. I don't know. He's going on this tirade about just, and I get it, they're friends. He's trying to protect them. But again, I think this is a terrible narrative to set, especially with Chimaev now seemingly set to turn around and not go to light heavyweight. And he wants the rematch with Sean Strickland. And you got one of his teammates that knows some of the personal stuff going behind the scenes, trying to just paint this narrative of, for lack of better words, a pre-built excuse. On top of saying some other crazy stuff, I mean, he was talking about obviously things like the technical side of the water cut, like he didn't drink enough water, so his water was cutting too fast and too much from his body, which made him shut down. He's talking about how he was suffering so much that he was supposedly Chimaev was offering to pay Strickland $1 million to take it and just call the fight off, which is bananas coming from Chimaev. If he had actually said this, seeing as though Chimaev is, to a degree, still the most scary fighter we've seen in a long time. He got hurt a lot after the fight, but up until then, he was probably the most feared man, hardest to beat. And for him to say that, I don't think I've ever heard a fighter say they'd offer $1 million. But yeah, till Dillashaw, he goes in further. He's talking about, obviously a mix of the challenges of the water cut and the weight and struggles and this and that, to then going on and trying to say, well, considering that his performance was amazing, he still believes Khamzat won 3, possibly 4 rounds, which is bananas. So it wasn't robbery, but still, again, just really pushes that performance. And then as I control F, then really goes on this hammering home of just considering the fact that, Khamzat's had past health issues. He's missing a portion of his thyroid, that it makes him look even better that he was able to do what he did despite having such a nasty weight cut and cutting so much and not doing it in a correct manner. But all I hear is excuses. And again, TJ Dillashaw, he's come from this camp himself. I mean, no less he had to do EPO just to try to get down to that weight class. And he still had weight issues and ended up losing the fight. And now he's all bulked up because he gave up on that dream. But let's be real. The fight world, the MMA, the business, all that, the reason why I like the sport so much, and I think most fans do, is that one small error, one small issue can make the difference between someone winning or losing, between someone having a good or a bad performance. And weight cuts are part of it. I mean, Chimaev, this isn't his first rodeo. He's missed weight. He's looked shit on the stage, on the scale before. I mean, for God's sakes, he essentially didn't. Regardless of what your opinion is, it doesn't seem like he even actually made the weight. That's how close it was. I think he had 13 minutes to spare, and he was the last fighter. We all knew he looked like dog shit coming on the scale. And this is where I was saying where TJ's painting a bad narrative, because my personal opinion, and there's always going to be exceptions to the rule, but my personal opinion is that when you're going to share excuses, mainly about prior injuries or tough weight cuts or family issues, I think that's generally reserved more for the winner. I mean, Sean Strickland was saying that he had all these shoulder issues, essentially separated shoulder, 3 or 4 days out, just wrestling, went into a brick wall, separated it. And then that actually kind of partially explains why he didn't really throw a lot of power punches. And you also have to consider that probably would have made, wizards and other forms of just defensive grappling even harder against a guy like Chimaev that was, for lack of a better word, still pushing the takedown in 2 or 3 of the rounds. For me, it's like Sean wins the belt. He does the upset. And then on top of it, you find out he had a pretty bad torn shoulder, it sounds like, whatever it was, partial rotator cuff, etc. That's something where you're like, you hear that and you're like, damn, he fought through perseverance. He got the upset. He's a two-time champ now. It's building up his own Hall of Fame career. With Khamzat, it's just, I don't know. It's just like, it just comes off like an excuse. And he's not necessarily saying it, TJ's saying it, but clearly TJ wouldn't have said it if Hamza wasn't, I think, okay with him sharing that, especially with, and I don't know how much involved TJ is with the actual weight cut, but I mean, let's call a spade a spade. They were both compromised. Sean seemed like he didn't have a good arm, couldn't punch, and probably had a hard time grappling. Hamza was not 100% on fight night due to weight issues. And lo and behold, Hamza, like I said, this is the most beat up he's looked other than probably the Gilbert Burns fight. And I think we can agree he beat Gilbert Burns in that fight. This fight, I would say the consensus was he lost 3 out of the 5 rounds. They were close rounds. He lost the rounds. He got beat up. This is what he looked like on the left after. It was like 2 days after. Pretty bad black eyes. He looked pretty bruised up right after the fight. It is what it is. He should own it. He should move on. The better man won that night. We've seen this recently. Was it Peter Yan and Merab when they rematched? Peter was injured in the first fight. He comes back, supposedly, I think was fairly healthy in the second fight. Merab was a little compromised. I think was like sick or something. I don't know what he had, but he had something. And lo and behold, Merab loses really bad. It was like complete opposite of their 2 fights. And I don't really think Merab was heavily just like saying, "Oh, well, I was not 100% blah blah blah." He wants the trilogy, but he let Peter take his victory lap, and Peter won. I'll even throw this one out. The great one, Alex Volkanovski. I always think back because this is such a detriment to his own career. Was when he took that short notice fight against Islam in the rematch, gets head kicked into oblivion. His career partially wasn't the same afterwards after losing Ilya and having to take a year off. And I think back to this fight, and I'm like, this is a guy that he gave up. He hurt his credibility in the sense of, he takes his first KO loss. He loses his opportunity to ever get a rematch with Islam again when he had a goddamn good fight the first time. And he does this all on short notice because he's a dog and he wanted to fly out there and try to do it. He didn't look fresh. He was definitely fluffier in that fight. There was tons of excuses he could have made to push for a trilogy. He pretty much owned that shit. And he went back to featherweight and he ate it like a man, like I said, four months later when he loses. And that's why I like when a guy just takes his loss with a smile on his face and moves on. He owns it. And again, I can't give a lot of heat on Hamza because I feel like he's owned it. He wants the rematch, and I'll give it to him. That totally makes sense. But it just doesn't help when you have someone like TJ just talking in your corner and, like I said, just trying to paint this narrative that obviously I get where he's coming from, but you have to, it's the fight game, man. If you couldn't have done it, then don't go to the fight, pull out. Like, I'd rather see you do that than show up and then afterwards, I don't want to use excuse, but it is an excuse. Like I said, but it is what it is. And that's where it gets tricky moving forward. I don't know if Dana's, listening to all this and thinking that's how he does his Tuesday matchmaking. But Hamza had obviously said initially that he wanted to move to light heavyweight because the weight cut was so terrifying. Presumably he could do a better job. And now he's like, well, I want to get the rematch. I want to avenge my only loss. And I know he can, he knows he can beat Sean Strickland. I don't know myself, but now Dana's, he's holding firm. He's saying, hey, he wants the rematch and we're gonna think about it, but we don't know what we're gonna do, which I like. Maybe that's because Dana A knows, this guy's making some excuses, and B, he's inconsistent at times making weight, and C, and I've said this in prior videos, I don't know what Khamzat's future is anyway. It feels like he's continuing to balloon up at his whatever that Triger, whatever that gym thing he's at, where he seems to be bulking up. It doesn't feel like middleweight's is home. He's going to continue to get bigger and go to light heavyweight, get that second belt because I know he's going to want to. It feels like Dana knows if he beats Strickland, he's going to vacate. So there's no point. And Strickland is going to stay at middleweight until, the day he dies or whatever. So why not just keep Strickland there? Hopefully let him have a long reign, or let some other guy like Nasruddin Ivanov or something, or Joe Pyfer end up claiming the belt. So I think Dana recognizes that, and I agree with him. And I think the door is wide open. I mean, clearly, Khamzat was already getting ready. That was the rumor to fight Yuri. So he was already bulking up, and it seemed like he was already sizing up to fill up that light heavyweight frame. They're 205. So he was, I think, walking around the 220 range. The fact is, Carlos Ulberg is out for the rest of the year. He's probably not going to come back until late Q1, maybe Q2 even, because he's going to need some time, obviously, to get that, that stance, the striking, all that back with a, surgically repaired knee. Probably one of the worst injuries I feel like you can get as a fighter, especially a kickboxer. So it's probably going to be vacate. They're probably going to vacate this belt for some card, closer to November, something easy way to fill up the card with and worst comes to worst, they do an interim. But for Khamzat, just go up, man. Like I get the pain of thinking in his head, if he was fresh, he would beat Sean Strickland. But not every fighter is going to get redemption on every fight they lose. It's just the way it is. Just live, move on, let Sean own that win. If Chimaev goes out there and smokes Yuri, or he goes and he smokes like Ankalaev in his debut, people are going to completely forget that performance because we're fickle. We're short term. We're going to see Khamzat dominate in a new weight class and potentially get a second belt. And we're immediately going to start talking about him as the GOAT again, this and that, how dominant performance he is, so aggressive with the takedowns, power, etc. Like, he should just take it. Like, because let's be real, Sean's probably going to be out for a little bit with a shoulder anyway. And there's already some middleweights that have been waiting for that belt for a while, like Nasruddin Imanov. And then, like I said, Joe Pyfer is looming on the edge. That Dana likes Joe Pyfer. So, yeah, I would say move on, man. Like, just get out of this like shadow that TJ Dillashaw is painting over you. Move on. Push. Maybe he has to get one fight first, and then he can go fight for the belt light heavyweight. But it's wide open, brother. You used to fight, was it 3 times in 3 months? He goes and he beats just one guy in that top 6, top 7 range. Go fight Paulo Costa. That's a nice money fight. Fight him, beat him, and then go and fight Carlos or Yuri or something for the belt. And boom, you're back to the top. That's my thoughts, though. I don't like excuses, but I think it's a lot more justifiable for a winner than a loser. It is what it is. I think it's just the nature of it. People are going to perceive, and I do too. It's an excuse versus beating an obstacle, persevering. But that's my thoughts. Let me know what you think in the comments below. What should Khamzat do from here? Does he go up? Does he try to push for that stay at middleweight? And do you think TJ is TJ out of his lane for going on a podcast and talking about another man's weight cut? Is that fair? Does he have any points? Does EPO Dillashaw make a point, or is he just making an excuse? Let me know what you think. Drop a sub, comment, like, that dealio, and stay tuned for more.